everybody! September is almost here, which I'm very excited about because that means it's pretty much autumn, which means we are one season closer to Christmas. Yes, I am one of those Christmas-obsessed people, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Or, let me speak for myself. Let's not get ahead of myself. Anyway, here's a quick flip through of last month's spreads. You'll see that there's a bit of emptiness in the end, but that's just because I'm filming this early and I haven't gotten to it yet. So for September, I have decided to do fall trees as my theme. I'm not going for any specific kind of tree here, it's just from my imagination. But if these just so happen to look like any real trees, please let me know. I am not the most knowledgeable person when it comes to identifying plants, so it would be cool to know if this just so happens to look like a real one. So as you can see, I am setting up this month using colored pencils, which I've used once before in my bullet journal on my May setup. And you'll see that I use the same process in all 3 spreads that I'll be doing today in order to blend the colors. First, I put down a light layer with the lightest color that I'll be using, or rather the lightest shade of the color, since I'm using pretty much the same brownish colors for the trunk. Keep in mind, if you want white space for highlight, to not completely cover the image with this first layer in those areas. In my case, I'll use lighter colors for highlights, so I'm not gonna worry about that. Then I come in with the mid-tone and color the shade areas, blending towards the highlight areas. This helps me identify where the shading is coming from and where, in this case especially, where the bends of the trunk is coming from, because in my mind, each one of these little sections is like its own protruding area of the trunk, so it gives them more shape. Then coming back with my light tone, I blend the two together to get a more seamless transition of color. And then I bring in the darkest shade and create contrast, focusing on those areas where I originally put the mid-tone shade to bring more focus on what the darkest areas are. For the leaves, I first plan them out with the yellow pencil since it's the lightest one, and just in case I put it somewhere where I don't like it, it won't really be noticeable. And then I filled them in, transitioning the colors from the red to the yellow. On to the next spread. I am once again doing a calendar for the future planning, but this time I want to try out not doing full lines. I don't know how this is gonna work practically. I don't want my days blending in with each other when I am actually writing in them, but let's try it out and I'll update you next month with the October setup on how it went. Aside from that, I do realize that I did not give myself enough spaces for all 30 days of September. I don't know how I missed it. No idea, but I didn't notice until I was writing the numbers, and at that point there was really no going back. So I'm just gonna embrace my mistakes and leave it like it is. Any plans past the 25th of September, I'll just write them down in the notes section on the previous page, or maybe in whatever weekly spread I'm using at the moment. We'll see. I'll figure it out. As for drawing, I just did some fall leaves defining the outer outline of the calendar. Sometime in the next week, by the way, I will do a more detailed mini tutorial on my Instagram stories like I did for the potted plants of last month's theme, so stay tuned for that. It was pretty fun. It's just a simple series of stories where I go step by step on how I draw these elements of my bullet journal setup. Last thing on this spread is the YouTube and Instagram sections in the bottom left corner. A few months ago I started tracking what I start and end the month with, so this month I am actually going to give it its own space, since the previous times is just somewhere around the month setup, and I can never find it at the end. So I'm gonna make it more useful. On to the third and final spread. I'm gonna do some trackers. Now, I don't know what I'm tracking yet. I have a few days to figure it out, but I have some ideas. I think I want to track how often I post on Instagram, since I've been going really dedicated on that lately, and maybe drawing or calligraphy or something like that. So for now, I am not going to title these trackers. I'm just gonna leave them how they are, and I'll come back later and title them. I used to do trackers when I first started bullet journaling, but it has been quite a while since I stopped using them, and I want to see how it goes. In terms of the actual tracking, I think what I'm gonna do is write the date of the month on the days that I complete what I'm tracking. So ideally, by the end of the month, these little calendars will be as complete as possible with all the dates. As for the design in this page, I'm doing another tree, this time without leaves. And because I still wanted to use the red, orange, and yellow colors that I was using on the leaves in the other two spreads, I decided to integrate them into the trunk instead. It kind of looks like a fiery tree. I like it. Lastly, I want to go over the supplies I have used in these spreads. The color pencils are the Faber-Castell Polychromos, as well as the pencil sharpener that you see for most of the video on the left side. Then the fountain pen is Lamy Safari in dark lilac with 1.9 stub and medium-sized nibs. I go back and forth between the two depending on what I'm doing. And it is filled with Romeo Rust ink from Farney's, which is a pen store in Washington, D.C. I've talked about it before. It's great, highly recommend it. You should go if you're in the area. And the notebook is the same as always, an A6 Leuchtturm in a pocket-sized Ship Sparrow. That's all I have for you today. Thank you for joining me in this very long video, and subscribe if you're into bullet journaling, because I'm into bullet journaling, and we do a lot of that here. I'll see you next week with another video, and have a fantastic day. Bye!